Welcome to Sensibly Cynical. My name is Sean, and with me yet again is Frank Jack. What's going on, Frank?
What's going on, Sean?
Today we actually have two special guests. They are from the LushUs Life Podcast, Alicia and Lisa. Thank you for doing this. So let's talk about, the history of your show. When did you guys start? What was the backstory behind you two getting together for your podcast?
You want to take that one, Lish?
Sure. So me and Lisa have known each other for a little over 2 years. I had started podcasting, was doing a bourbon podcast, met Lisa. She came on and was our cocktail hostess. At some point, decided we were going to do our own gig, something we could kind of infuse cocktails and booze and adulting and just do whatever we want. And
Right.
so that was the birth of the LushUs Life, to have fun, a good time, and really not with any restrictions.
Right, that's cool. So, what's there to do kind of like in Arizona, Lisa? How's the nightlife there? Are you in Phoenix or where in Arizona are you?
I live in downtown Phoenix, actually.
Okay.
Phoenix is the 5th largest city in the country. We have a population of almost 6 million people in the surrounding areas, so it's a huge city. There's everything to do that you would expect in any city of that size. And in the last 5 years, as the economy has recovered, we were hit pretty hard with that recession.
Right.
In 2008, it seems like a new bar or a new restaurant opens every week. We also have Arizona State University has several campuses in the state. One of those is downtown, and they have about 120,000 students.
Yeah.
So we have a lot of nightlife, a lot of students, a lot of stuff going on.
Yeah, I've heard stories. I can only imagine. I came from a similar college, UCF in Orlando. That we had a lot of kids there when I was there. So I heard stories about Arizona State. Are you from Arizona, originally, or?
Nope, I've only lived in Arizona for 5 years. My day job brought me here about 5 years ago. So.
Oh, okay.
That didn't really have anything to do with the booze world. I just landed here.
Oh, okay.
So, yeah, in Arizona, we know out here, with Kentucky and Tennessee, there's distilleries everywhere. What is it like out there? Are there a lot, is it as, there's many as there are out here on the East Coast, on the West Coast, or?
It depends on what you mean by East Coast. Is there as many as there are in Kentucky? Hell no. I mean, Kentucky's covered in distilleries. Is there as many as you would expect in, many of the other states? Yeah. I mean, Arizona 10 years ago had 3 distilleries. We're at over 30 now. So distilleries are popping up all over here, just like they are all over the West Coast. I mean, you have a pretty big brewery culture in Oregon and Washington State, but you've got distilleries popping up, world-class distilleries popping up all over the West, just like everywhere else.
Right. I guess you're in Kentucky, right, Alicia?
I am, yeah.
So on a night out, do you just distillery hop, or do you check out is it basically distillery hopping down there?
Well, I guess it kind of depends. We have a couple different trails. We have the craft trail, the craft bourbon trail, the urban bourbon trail now. We also have the regular bourbon trail. And then there's a lot of distilleries that aren't on that. For me, I usually go about every 6 months, I'll go on a full day bourbon trail experience where I'm just going down, hitting the different places.
Right.
Other than that, honestly, most urban people are going to the distilleries when there's big events or there's something going on. There's so many distilleries and so many events and parties and just stuff going on,
right.
New releases, things
Sure.
like that you're really chilling, waiting in line, kind of hanging out.
Yeah.
And I feel like the trend in Kentucky is now that we are opening these, some of these distilleries that are opening more craft style are actually building a venue space, so there is a culture around spending your Friday nights there.
That's cool.
In downtown Louisville, we have Copper and King. It's actually a brandy distillery that ages in bourbon barrels, and they have amazing parties, themed parties, bar there all the time, something to do. At the distillery I work at, we have live music, food trucks every Friday night with a bar. So I feel like
Nice.
it's changing the culture of kind of how you hop around the distilleries nowadays.
Yep. We're seeing that here too. People,
Oh, yeah?
they're adding more and more to keep you there longer.
Yeah, an experience that you revisit instead
Right,
of just
right.
a tourist stop.
Yep.
Right. No, it makes sense. Makes sense.
Now, you say you have different experiences every night. Now, do you guys rotate them per weekly, or do you guys really just kind of mix them up just to make it a different experience every single time?
For the distilleries, they kind of change around. It depends on, number one, the distillery. Copper and Kings does everything from tiki parties to themed, like holiday parties to things like that. And really, it all depends on kind of the season and what it is. But it does change around a lot. You'll find a lot of your locals, though, aren't going to party at distilleries all the time. We're usually picking our, our favorite bourbon bars and places like that to hang out.
If you had to pick like your favorite spirit, like overall, like I know it's probably a tough.
Just a broad
yeah,
spirit,
overall, like if you're at like a late night hanging out with some girls or whatever, or not even that, just in general, what's your favorite spirit and why?
Bourbon neat every day, all day. Bourbon is the essence of Kentucky to me. When I drink bourbon, it's got this just wonderful oily mouthfeel. You can taste the corn, and it reminds me of growing up. I mean, that's what everything, we're in the whiskey corn belt in Kentucky. You can almost, a lot of your rye, you'll get this sweet, fresh tobacco smell. And I really feel like when I drink it, it is an experience of what countryside in Kentucky looks like and what it smells like and just the essence of it. We have so many bourbon distilleries around here. It's not odd to be someplace and actually smell the smell of these rick houses bellowing out. So I'm bourbon every day, all day, neat in a glass.
Yeah, that was kind of a softball question for you, but
I like it. I had you. I was on it.
All right, Alicia, what's your favorite spirit?
So for me, I'm broader than Lish. It's all whiskey for me, but it's not just bourbon. So I think I love whiskey as a category because it literally suits every single mood. I can have something light and smooth, like Irish whiskey, and drink it, all day long, starting at breakfast. I could have a wicked ass peaty Scotch that'll knock you on your ass, and yes, I love it. Or a beautiful corn sweet bourbon, that's practically like dessert. So whiskey as a category is just my favorite, but I love all kinds of whiskey.
How much, as opposed to, because heat makes you drunker or not drunker, how does humidity, you guys think, besides drinking on the East Coast as opposed to the West Coast, how does that affect it? How much you can drink, how much water you have to drink in between?
Arizona's brutal. Our humidity is at 0 to 5%. It is absolutely brutal. You have to drink inordinate amounts of water to prevent hangovers here, and you have to stay hydrated every day of the week, even when you're not drinking, because you will pass out, you will get sick. If it's 120 degrees with 0% humidity, it's actually really, really hard to stay hydrated. So we take electrolytes a lot, just as part of a regular routine, and when we're drinking, even more so. So it's a big difference than when it's high and humid.
Right.
On the trails, what's your favorite distillery? You said you drink bourbon all the time. Do you have a certain distillery that you like?
So I have, I will give you two spectrums. I have a distillery that is not on the trail that is my favorite distillery because it's historical and I love it. And I have a one that I love. Buffalo Trace is not on the bourbon trail, but I will say Willett out in Bardstown is on the craft trail. And they have a cult-like following. It's a gorgeous facility. They put out great juice, and it's a grab bag. Get there at about 10, do the first tour. Usually that's when they'll put out whatever special bottles they are going to put out, if they will.
Sure.
And it's kind of playing Russian roulette to see if you get something great.
Interesting. Yeah, Buffalo Trace, because I'm originally from New York, but now I live in the panhandle of Florida, so every time my family comes down to visit me, they stop at Buffalo Trace. They have to, it's amazing. It's like if they don't stop at Buffalo Trace, it was like something's wrong.
Yeah.
Every single time. They love Kentucky.
Yeah.
They take pictures every time.
Yeah, you got to come up and hang out. It's a great time up here. We don't play games. We pound our bourbon.
Well, I always said if I ever get married, that's where my bachelor party's going to be, on the bourbon trail.
There you go. You can actually get married at Buffalo Trace.
Oh, yeah, that's cool.
That would be pretty awesome. That would be pretty awesome.
That's really cool.
You can't beat that.
Yeah.
What type of year is the best for tourists to go?
So
Anytime
September is a bourbon month for us. It is every weekend we have a festival or something going on. It's also the start of what we refer to as bourbon hunting season. So that's really a great time. Our weather isn't really ramping down. It's typically still hot, but there are those off days where our weather is kind of coming down a little bit. If you're coming for festivals and to buy bourbon, that's when you would want to come. If I was telling you when to come, I would actually probably tell you to come in early November. Our temperature has really dropped. Harvest of corn has just happened, so the fields are kind of down. The rick houses have this much more moist, beautiful smell to them.
Right.
And it's definitely a different experience. Every season, you'll find when you come to visit bourbon distilleries, the rick houses have a different smell. In late summer, it's very pungent, it's very strong, it's super hot. I mean, it'll hit you in the face. Where in the fall, it has this just wonderful vegetal aroma. It's gorgeous and soft, and it really is a beautiful time to be in Kentucky.
Well, I think both you guys said you guys both know about moonshine. Now, when I was growing up, moonshine, you just get grain alcohol and soak in food. Soak fruit in the grain alcohol, and that's how you make moonshine. Although, since moving to the South, though, I've heard that's not correct. What do you guys know about making moonshine? Is that the different ways of doing it?
Lisa, you want me to take this one? Do you have any?
You do it, sister. Yeah, I mean, moonshine is its own genre of category of
Right.
alcohol now. It isn't just the hooch that people are making in the backwoods. And as Alicia said earlier, her distillery actually makes moonshine.
Okay.
Yeah. Moonshine was a beast of taxes. So you had your old farmers that had too much grain. What do they do with it? They distill it, but they're not going to barrel it. So they got their name by making alcohol in the woods by the light of the moon, because they weren't actually going to pay taxes on it. Moonshine is a category. That's kind of how that category got its name. Modern day moonshine is definitely a little more gimmicky, is what I'm going to say.
Oh, absolutely.
You're going to find your backwood boys that actually produce moonshine, and then you're also going to find your guys that are buying grain neutral spirit and soaking fruit. I feel like that's a very common like backwoods way.
I thought that's how you're supposed to do it. My whole life, that's how I thought you were supposed to do it.
Well, I was going to say, the ongoing joke is, if you get bad moonshine, it'll make you go blind. And that's actually a true statement. Yeah. So if the cut is not correct in moonshine, there's actually a chemical in that will attack your optic nerve and make you go blind. So now moonshine can be made out of anything. Typically in Kentucky, what we're making moonshine is what we call our new make. It is unaged whiskey. So it is, for the company I work for, it is everything that will be whiskey, except we're not putting it in a barrel. We're going to put it straight in a jar. So it's raw. Here's what I have to say about moonshine. It has a bad name anymore. People aren't huge lovers of it. But I feel like, especially if you're buying moonshine from distilleries, craft distilleries,
right,
it's a real way to taste what is going in the barrel before it goes in. It's a ballsy move on their part. It's the easiest way to taste flaws in the whiskey that they're producing, if there is a flaw in it. And number two is, typically your corn moonshines that are corn-based have this unbelievable, creamy, buttered popcorn flavor to it that is really phenomenal, that you don't get in other spirits. So I do know my moonshine. I like it just a little.
Just a little bit.
Just a little.
Every time I drink moonshine, I get myself in. Well, I only drink the backwoods stuff, so every time I drink it, I get myself in trouble because I chug it like I do a whiskey.
The wise master distiller of Wild Turkey, Jimmy Russell, once said, when I was talking to him, the way you know you've drank too much moonshine is when you get a crease right between your eyes from the bottle hitting your head.
I like it. I love Wild Turkey too, because Wild Turkey.
God, I have a story about Wild Turkey. I can't do it.
The thing about Wild Turkey is, because in college, everyone always wants to buy you a shot, so I'd buy them Wild Turkey. They'd all vomit. It'd be awesome.
I
drink it normally, but nowadays when people invite me to Thanksgiving, I always tell them I'm bringing the turkey, and I bring the Wild Turkey.
Yes,
I go from.
They always go wrong with that.
No, I go from sober to puking in Wild Turkey like that. Every other.
You gotta drink more Wild Turkey.
No, like seriously, like there was on my 22nd birthday. I was just chilling, having a beer. My buddy comes into the bar and was like, "Oh yeah, Wild Turkey for everybody." I'm like, "Oh yeah, sure. I've never had it before." It's like, "Sure, give me one." Like 2 shots in, and I'm like toast. Like, man, Wild Turkey, that shit fucked me up.
It's your nemesis.
Yeah, I haven't messed with it since.
Oh, I love Wild Turkey.
Yeah, they make so many different products. The Wild Turkey rare breed will definitely own your ass if you're not careful.
Is that smooth? Is it more smooth than the average Wild Turkey? Because I don't like whiskey. I don't like anything smooth. I like it with a bite.
Oh no, it's got a bite. It'll leave marks for sure. It's not playing. Yeah, that is actually what they consider more their barrel strength. I think right now the proof on that, and don't quote me because the proof just changed to like 112 or no 116. It used to be 112.8, and now it's 116 point something. That is rare breed. So.
Wow.
Yeah.
You got that down.
Yeah.
We talked about the Bourbon Trail. How about Napa Valley on the West Coast? Any interest in that?
So I will be perfectly honest. I drink wine. I'm fine to drink wine. I don't have any interest in going to Napa though and hanging out and drinking overpriced wine. I'm all about spirits.
I get that.
So I would visit California distilleries before I would spend a lot of time at really expensive Napa wineries. Sorry.
No, I completely get that. All my buddies, they go there, they blow $10,000, and I'm like,
yeah, it's really. I mean,
you gotta really love
prices
wine.
have just gotten insane
absolutely,
in Napa.
absolutely.
I mean, they make good wine, but so do lots of other places.
Right, absolutely.
Right.
You're paying for sort of the name and the experience there, and there's some. I'd much rather go to a distillery.
Well, do you have anything like the Whiskey Trail on the West Coast that is popular?
We don't have a whiskey trail per se because the West Coast is just simply so large. If you think about how large some of these states are, like California, Oregon and Washington, there's not a trail. There's absolutely fantastic distilleries in all states, though. And if you get into any urban area, you want to go to Seattle, Portland, Sacramento, Los Angeles, San Francisco, any of those cities, it doesn't take long for you to find a lot of good distilleries to try. Along with some pretty fantastic cocktail bars too. So you can kind of create your own adventure, and most of those cities also have a guide that will help you find all the right places. Although social media is pretty fantastic. Just put a note on social media. Hey, I'm heading to this city. Stay part of all the bourbon. Alicia and I are part of so many alcohol groups, whiskey groups, cocktail groups, bourbon groups. So it's a pretty great network to tell you where to go to.
Yeah, well, I believe it. So I saw on one of your podcasts that you went to DC and went bar hopping there. I lived there for about 3 years. Where I got to know where you went.
Yeah, me too. I've been there.
DC is a fantastic city for cocktails, especially the last 10 years. It has really, really come along. So every trip, I go to DC about once a year, and I try to hit. There's a standard. I mean, I never ever go to DC without a trip to Jack Rose. Jack Rose has got the largest whiskey selection, I think, in the Western Hemisphere. It almost 3,000 bottles. Super rare stuff to super plain stuff. I mean, they have everything. Any whiskey lover, it's like heaven. The book is probably 2 inches thick with all of the in there. But then there's a million cocktail bars. They do. There's hyper experimental stuff like Bar Mini by Jose Andres. There's Nocturne DC, which is another experimental bar that just opened. Columbia Room, best bar in the country, 2017. I mean, they have fantastic distilleries. Joseph A. Magnus is putting out incredible stuff. Both their gins and their whiskeys. There's just Cotton and Reed's doing killer rums. DC's really come along the last 5 years.
Talking about DC bars, when you're talking about a place that had it all, I don't remember the name, but there's this place in Georgetown that had every whiskey. And a big whiskey that they had was Pappy. What do you guys think about that? I know it's about...
Pappy. So here's what I think about Pappy. Pappy is the most notable bourbon that people often know as a top shelf bourbon. It's made a name for itself. It got stolen. It made a bigger name for itself. It is fantastic juice for retail. If you can snag a bottle at retail, it's great. But is it worth the hunt? If you enjoy hunting and that's what you want to score and that's your buck, your big racked buck, then go score that bad boy and hang that up on your bar and be proud of it. For me, I got big enough balls. I don't need Pappy on my bar shelf to feel like I've done something. So I get Pappy. I trade that shit off for something that I really want to drink. Just because the secondary value of that is so high. I don't usually sell stuff on secondary, but I will definitely trade it off for something that I really want. Made a lot of splash. About 8-10 years ago, you could have walked in a store and bought it with no problem, as most bourbons will, kind of were back then.
It's also, I think my favorite thing about Pappy, it is the most amazing douchebag meter you've ever seen. Dude, go to a bar, you can immediately tell who the douchebags are. Yeah. Pappy, pour me some Pappy. I'm going to impress this girl. And they don't even drink whiskey.
As the Australians say, it's the wanker meter. You sit next to somebody and they sit down and the first thing they say is, how much is your Pappy 23? And they get told $100 and they get a pour of it. I'm like, my wanker meter has just blown off. I know. I'm like, oh man.
I just can't imagine paying $100 for something I'm going to drink in about 5 minutes.
Yeah.
Yeah. I paid in upwards of $60 a pour for something that was very sought after. I wouldn't get the chance to have it again. I wasn't going to get the chance to taste it any other way. And I savor it, and it's an experience. Some women buy shoes I still buy shoes. I should reference something that isn't that I buy.
Bad choice.
You know, the funny thing is the most expensive shot I've ever purchased was a Washington apple. So I, you know, for some chick. I don't, you know.
Right.
But so let's talk about vodka. So which one of you who's into vodka more?
Neither of us are really.
You don't drink vodka? I'm a vodka person. Dang.
I can talk to you about vodka.
Okay, so.
Yeah, the distillery I work for makes vodka. Me and Lisa, we like I feel like vodka is, as Lisa put it. How did you slate it? A blank canvas for
a lovely blank canvas. A lovely blank canvas upon which to paint a cocktail.
I like it.
Yeah, because y'all did an episode on vodka, right? That's why
we did.
That's why I mentioned it. Yeah.
But that's the perfect.
Yeah.
It's a blank canvas because really it tastes like it's just something.
It doesn't have a lot of flavor.
No, I like Absolute. That's my stuff. You know. So
there's some beautiful craft vodkas out there. Vodka
really?
For a long time was really meh. But as more and more craft distilleries are coming along, the quality of the vodka is going up. They're doing really nice vodka infusions. And so vodka's totally upping its game, which it needs to, because gin has overtaken the world. Yeah. It is still coming along in the U.S. We're still slower. But as far as Europe goes, gin owns Europe at this point. So vodka's got to step up its game of clear liquor.
I think vodka may have to a point when they started using grapes as opposed to more potatoes. You know, when Diddy made that brand, was it Syrah?
Yeah, Syrah.
Yeah, there's a lot. I mean, you can make vodka out of anything, pretty much, right? As long as you've got a sugar content.
Right.
Yeah, as long as it comes off a still at 192 proof, anything can be made out of vodka. There's actually people that use grapes. They use different stuff. Your vodkas that are made out of wheat, like Wheatley vodka, it's going to have a different mouthfeel. It kind of changes the oiliness of it, whether it's a sweet flavor, whether it's a citrus flavor. Vodka in the United States is different than vodka in, let's say, like Europe or vodka in the UK. Vodka in the UK can actually have remnants of flavor due to the main grain that's used to produce it. Vodka in the US needs to be flavorless, scentless, colorless, and has to fit that profile, which is not really true. Most vodka, if you can get past that first flavor, you really do get some essence of how it was produced.
Right. Now we're talking about gin. Do you guys drink a lot of gin? Or is that not something either? You're mostly just whiskey-based drinks. Do you know a lot about gin?
I drink a lot of gin. I mean, brown liquor is going to always be my favorite. Mm-hmm. That's my very favorite. But no, I drink a lot of gin. Gin is the same thing. It's a category that's exploding. Gin comes in a lot of styles. It comes in a standard London Dry, which is like your Tanquerays, the things that you're used to drinking. It also comes in a style called Old Tom, which is a little bit sweeter. So Old Tom gins are sweet, especially in Western Europe right now. They're going crazy. They're adding rhubarb and strawberry and cloves and anise and anything you can possibly think of to their gins. There's Navy strength gin, which is the high proof version. So that's the gin version of barrel cask strength. So gins are doing really cool things, especially great in cocktails, where vodka in a cocktail adds nothing to the cocktail but alcohol. There's no flavor. You add gin to a cocktail and you can add citrus or rhubarb or juniper or whatever that is. And so it's a fantastic spirit, especially for cocktails.
So I'm gonna just bring out another bourbon bands to see what you guys feel. Do you guys have any feelings about Angel's Envy?
I'll go first, I guess. Lish can go second. Angel's Envy is the bourbon brand that I use to introduce people to bourbon. Mm-hmm. Because the Angel's Envy bourbon is finished in a port cask and the rye is finished in a rum cask, they're sweeter and a little the edges are sort of taken off of them. So to the new bourbon drinker, I think it's a super great way to introduce people to bourbon. So I use it for that. I also use it in some high-end cocktails. Because of how smooth it is, it doesn't disrupt some of the other flavor profiles. So I think it's really good for that. It is sweeter than most, but I guess that's what I primarily use it for, Lish.
I mean, Lisa kind of said it the way, kind of put it out there. I personally don't drink Angel's Envy very often because of the price point, I won't lie. For me, I just don't look for that flavor profile, but I think Lisa is spot on when you start introducing somebody. They were kind of the person that brought to light being able to cast finish something, brought it mainstream, and really kind of broke ground, I think, with bourbon drinkers who really gave some pushback to saying that wasn't bourbon because of that finish, where now it's much more widely accepted, it's much more experimented with, and you're finding that that's a much more common thing to do. So they were kind of, laid the groundwork for that.
So let's talk about your podcast. So what's your usual, response? You get a lot of people asking about whiskeys and stuff. Like, what kind of whiskeys do you recommend, like someone just experimenting with?
We're so funny when people ask us that question because we love whiskey so much, and that it's more like you can't just ask what to experiment with. What's your price point? What kind of whiskey? Do you like it spicy?
Right.
Do you like it high proof? Do you like it low proof? Do you like it sweet? Do you like it smooth? Do you like a bite? Do you
Right.
like Irish? Do you know your regions in Scotland? There's like a billion questions that come back when somebody's like, recommend a whiskey.
Yeah.
And you're like, that's so broad.
Yeah.
So I think, I'm speaking for Alicia a little bit, but I think we usually just ask a lot of questions. When somebody's asking us, we say, how much do you want to spend? One of my questions when somebody doesn't know what whiskey they like or how to drink whiskey, I ask them, do you like cornbread? Do you like rye bread?
Right.
Would you rather have cereal? Those are the kinds of flavors you get out of bourbon and scotch. And so those are the kinds of questions I ask to help somebody pick a bottle that's right for them. Because the answer is it's different for everybody.
Yeah, and price point plays into that a lot.
It's huge, yeah.
I mean, it's like playing Where's Waldo. I mean, honestly, it's like a hot and cold game of question.
That's why. That's the one reason I asked you about Angel Envy, because that was a big deal last time I was in New York. Everyone was drinking Angel's Envy, and I drank it. I'm like, how much does this bottle cost you? I don't think it's.
Yeah.
It didn't seem worth it for the taste. I mean, but then again, I mean, all I drink is Jack Daniels anyway, and sometimes this stuff. So
Yeah, beer.
I'm a horrible person to ask.
Do you guys have a beer of choice, or do you guys just drink whatever beer, whatever?
Alicia's better at beer than I am. I am like a beer wimp, so I just drink like porters and stouts. She's like badass. She goes all through all those IPAs and double IPAs and
I like a hazy IPA. I like it super hoppy. If I'm not going to do that, Founders puts out a lot of great stuff. The barrel aged stuff is always good. I'm really at the moment kind of drinking a lot more gozas, sours,
Right.
that kind of piece. I really enjoy that. But I will tell you, commonly, you will find me with a PBR tall boy. I mean, everybody has that one beer where you're gonna have a beer and you don't want a $7 or $10
Right, and you
beer.
had some random. You had a dive. Yeah.
Yeah, so I do. I drink a lot of bourbon at chill bars that have great bourbon prices, and they do have great booze and great beer. But I'm just as content having a pour of neat bourbon and having a PBR in the other hand.
Yeah. Do you drink it usually neat or on the rocks or?
I'm always a neat girl, Lisa.
yeah, I'm pretty much neat. I mean, rare if it's extremely hot, I may add a couple of rocks into something, but it really depends on what I'm drinking. I don't usually like water or ice in my whiskey.
Yeah, I usually try to stick with like Johnny, Johnny Black. That's usually my go-to. You guys like Johnny at all or no? Johnny Walker?
Yeah.
It's okay.
That's fine.
That's usually
fine.
my go-to.
I drink a lot more single malts than I do blends, but Compass Box is kind of an exception. But yeah, Johnny Walker solid. I have Johnny Walker Black in my liquor cabinet.
Right here. Yeah.
I drink no Johnny. I'm not gonna lie. I don't drink any Johnny.
Really?
No.
I'm a cheap drinker.
That's my shit.
I don't drink. I don't have any. I have only one bottle of scotch that was given to me.
You had to look. You had to look. No, yeah. But no, Johnny's my go-to.
Why?
I don't know. I just like Johnny. Johnny
No.
Black. Johnny Black.
No. I mean, I drink when I go home. they drink open Johnny when I get. But
Johnny Black, bro.
But why?
Well, now
It's
you gotta
so
try
expensive.
Johnny just released their White Walker this week, which is a Game of Thrones bottle with a different blend in it. So,
Oh, really? I'll try that.
Yep, keep your eye out. It's Johnny Walker, but the bottle's completely white, and it's got a blue figure
Oh,
on the
that's
front.
cool.
So
That's pretty-
I haven't tasted it. I don't think it's going to be much different than Johnny Walker Black.
It's
Their
just a
stuff is
gimmick. Yeah.
notoriously similar, but yeah, there you go. You got your Game of Thrones bottle out there.
Well, I have a funny story about how to drinking whiskey. You guys were talking about how you guys like to drink it. One day I just got the rail on the rocks, and my friend decided to tell the bartender that based on the fact that I got a double shot of the rail on the rocks and didn't mix it, that I was a garbage human being. She just announced to the waitress. I thought it was hilarious because it was
You
rail.
need to reevaluate your friendships.
I tell him that all the time.
She goes, it's okay. He understands. He's a piece of garbage. He's drinking double on the rail.
So Alicia, you got any funny stories from your time on, from your experiences on the trail? I guess I should say.
So I did liquor sales for a while, and was at a bar on my first call there, and it was what I would refer to as an old man bar. And got my ticket, was gonna leave, signing it. This old guy next to me, who honestly was in his 80s at least. I think the old folk home brought him and dropped him off. I'm not joking. I was signing it. He's like, "Are you writing me a love note?" And I'm like, "No, baby, I'm not. I'm just signing this. But I could write you a love note." And he tells me, we go on, and he tells me, "I want you to write me a love note. I want to take you home with me. These hands are lethal weapons. I want to take and lay you on my bed horizontally. I'm going to pour hot wax all of you and put plastic gloves on and rub it all over your body." And I, at this point, am like, tears are coming down my face. I think he's joking. And I am hysterically laughing. I mean, it's fucking hilarious. And I look over, and he is weeping. And I'm like, "What are you crying?" And he's like, "You're hurting my feelings." And then I just
That's
lose
pretty
my
funny.
shit even more. And then he tells me, "Would you be okay with my daughter calling you mama? She's older than you." And I was like, "Baby, I gotta go home. I have got to leave." As I leave, the owner apologizes, tells me what day a week that guy is there, that I could come back, but he's always there on a certain day. I have to go out and sit in my car for a good 20 minutes to collect myself afterwards. It was crazy.
Yeah.
That's hilarious.
Any funny stories in Arizona?
Oh man, I can't compete with Glove Man. There is no way. Glove Man takes the cake. We joke about him on the podcast all the time, actually.
Oh yeah.
I'm sure that he doesn't listen. Hopefully, he doesn't listen to the show.
Most likely not.
I
who knows?
figure if he's 80, he doesn't have an iPhone. He doesn't even know how to download a podcast.
And if he does listen, that means you just got to make fun of him more.
Oh.
I mean, I would have been nice. I was being nice to the dude, and even at the point he wanted to rub me with hot stuff and tell me his hands were lethal weapons, if he'd have been joking, I was all for that, laughing about it. But when I realized we were serious business, I was like, I need to leave. God knows he couldn't kidnap me. I done break his bones.
Yeah.
After you all burned up.
Stick to him like glue.
That's pretty funny.
Oh, Lord.
Lisa, me and you were chatting and about cigars. So, Alicia, are you into cigars, or is it just not so much as Lisa?
Lisa is the cigar go-to. Alicia just smokes cigars every here and there. Lisa is the cigar person.
All right, so Lisa, so talk about like cigars and what's your go-to cigar and what you like about cigars and everything.
What do I like about cigars? I like about cigars, in some ways, what I like about an amazing bottle of whiskey is that it's an experience, beginning to end. A good cigar at a minimum 45 minutes, up to 3 hours to smoke one. So when you light that thing up, you're there for a while. It totally forces you to slow down, contemplate life, or maybe just chill out with some friends on the back porch talking. And I love that life is so fast-paced and so busy, and a cigar starts in one place, just like a cocktail or a drink. It's got a beginning, it's got a middle, it's got an end. Each of those tastes different, and each of them have subtle influences. What is the wrapper made of? What country did it come from? Where was the tobacco grown? How was it grown? How was it prepared? How was that cigar wrapped? There's something for everybody. They do flavor-infused cigars if people love that. They have mild, medium, bold. So it's like there's something for every palate. And there's this whole world to explore, but there's just something about, for me at least, the whole sort of contemplative experience of smoking a cigar that I just absolutely love. Not to mention they taste amazing, and they taste even more amazing if you're drinking whiskey with them.
Yeah, I mean, there's not much I can add to that. That's how I feel too, because I'm more the cigar smoker, I think, than Frank is. I got into it, when I was in Tampa. My brother lived in Tampa, and I don't know if you guys know where Ybor City is, or heard of it. But Tampa's a big cigar city. That's when I started learning about cigars. But I was just curious, what kind of cigars like your go-to, like mild or what?
I'm more like medium to bold. I prefer bold because I like really bold cocktails, and I'm going to always have a drink when I smoke a cigar. So I've got to have a cigar that can stand up against that really like bold whiskey drink. So I'm always more medium to bold. My go-to, easy to find cigars are the Oliva V Lanios. So anything made by Oliva, but the Oliva Vs are a little bolder than their other I and G and O lines. So I love those. The Lennox is another one that's not too hard to find that I also really like. Again, it's medium to bold. So that's kind of my profile. If you go like stupid high end, I like Sans Pariah.
Oh, okay.
So those are dumb though. They're like $40 to $100 a cigar. So I've never actually paid for those.
That's a lot of
Alicia's like, whoa, what?
Yeah. I mean, it's the guy that owns it is super weird and quirky, and he's like almost like savantish. He's the weirdest person I've ever met. But,
You haven't met Sean.
Like
No, you haven't met Frank either.
He's literally like an asshole to everybody, and he has no filter, almost like Asperger's no filter.
I don't have a filter either.
So he'll just walk up to you and be like, "You're an ugly motherfucker," and you're just like, "Wow, okay, that's that poor guy. Like, you're so rude to him." And then, so yeah, he's interesting, but he makes cigars out of the top 1% of tobacco in the world, and they're fucking amazing. So
Yeah.
So you gotta deal with it.
Alicia, you feel the you feel it too, right? You're in this.
No, I gotta.
Lisa's I will say Lisa is my go-to with cigars. She knows her shit. She knows how to smoke them. She looks like a diva when she smokes them too. Me, I look like an old man just trying to gnarl on something. I don't even know what's going on.
Wait, hold on. I never smoke cigars with you. You don't like chomp on the ends and get them all slobbery, do you?
No, you know I get the V cut. I like the giant cut.
Okay.
I like the giant cut.
V cut's the only way to go.
That's funny. Oh my gosh.
But yeah, I remember being a kid, and honestly, the old men didn't even smoke them; they would just chew on them. You ever seen that? Yeah, have you ever seen that? When I was a kid,
it's like a mix between dipping and smoking.
Essentially, essentially.
It's like a blow pop. You start off, you're eating a sucker, and then the next thing you know, you got chewing gum in your mouth.
Yeah.
I've always wondered if there was like their old ladies didn't let them light up. So
That's essentially probably what happened.
Like they just want to get the nicotine in their system, so they're gonna chew on a cigar. Because I'm like, what the hell is the point if you can't light up? They taste amazing.
That's what school's for. But anyway.
You guys just pick a random type of spirit, or how's your show like?
So it varies week to week.
You guys do.
As Alicia said at the beginning, we didn't really want any boundaries, so we were totally free to do whatever we want. We do everything from interviewing world-class master distillers to doing silly hangover shows, like we did this week, to doing very spirit-specific shows like National Vodka Day, to shows on adulting, like how do you know you're adulting like a boss? We have a show like that. So we do this. It's a huge range, which we like because it gives us a lot of material. There's a whole lot of shows out there that are just bourbon bottle reviews, and we didn't want to get stuck in a genre where we just couldn't do whatever we wanted. So pretty much it's our show. We just do whatever we want.
I like it.
Right.
Now, I noticed you guys talked a lot about cookouts and stuff, and how to different drinks for cookouts, and when to wait for the kids to be in bed before you keep drinking. Now, I always get in trouble at cookouts, so I was wondering, what is a good etiquette? Do you have any rules for a cookout as far as drinking?
Depends on what kind of cookout you're at, right? If you're at a party where everybody's wasted, I don't think there's any rules. If you're at a party where your grandma's there and nobody drinks, you probably should keep it in a flask.
I mean, I don't know. I see it doesn't work with my family because, like, I went distillery hopping with my 93-year-old grandmother a few years ago, so I mean.
You don't have any rules. You're just fine.
So, about whiskey, I guess, is there any sort of, like, limit, do you think, in the future? Like, where do you see the genre going in the future? Like, is it more flavored stuff? Is that where you see everything going towards? Like, distilleries, like, are they experimenting is what I guess I'm trying to say, or is no one really experimenting?
I think you're going to not see a lot of flavored stuff. I think
it's going away?
I think you see flavors in the beginning while things are aging. I think you're going to find a lot more products made with heirloom varietals of corn, different ingredients, whether you're talking whiskeys made with rice or whiskeys made with rare grains or whiskeys made with sorghum or hemp seed.
Yeah.
Things that we're not typically used to seeing. I think we're going to see a big trend in single malt whiskey. American single malt, I think, is really going to take a stand and kind of pull that up. And I really see the American market kind of trending that way. Lisa?
I think another trend we're going to see a lot more of is diversity of barrel reuse. So bourbon barrels going to beer, and then coming right back to bourbon, and well, maybe not bourbon, but whiskey. So you're going to see barrels being used for all sorts of different things. Heritage Distilling out in Seattle is aging in both Grand Marnier barrels or aging in vanilla barrels. So I think that while that's not actually flavored, you are seeing lots of new finishing techniques, and you're seeing barrels going back and forth quite a bit between distilleries and breweries and wineries as well. So I think we'll see more of that in the future.
I actually just 2 weekends ago or 3 weekends ago did have a bourbon that is an experimental bourbon that's not released yet. That was originally a bourbon barrel, aged bourbon, aged like a honey ale beer in it. That company that owned the beer got older distillate, took that one that had aged bourbon, went to beer aging, and then re-aged bourbon in it, which gave it this kind of ale cask finish. And it was really interesting. It was good. I actually tasted a few different ones that had different beers in it. And again, I think Lisa's spot on that. I think you're really the Tabasco whiskey that just came out.
Oh, wow, really?
I mean, I personally thought that it would be horrible. I couldn't even believe
You said Tabasco whiskey?
Pleasantly
Wait, who makes that? I want to try that. Who makes what?
Dickel. It's made by Dickel.
Oh, really?
It's good. Yeah, it's actually, you think it's going to be terrible. Alicia's right. It's extremely well done. It's extremely well done. You would think that you're going to hate it, but it's actually
I'm going
really
to try
likable
that
for what it is.
Yeah?
Yeah, and it's not expensive. I mean, you can get it poured.
Right,
cheap.
Dickel, yeah.
They're doing a lot of soft drink, cannabis infusion into pot drinks. Do you think that's going to enter?
There's already cannabis-infused alcohols on the market.
Right. Most of it's beer, isn't it?
Humboldt Distilling in California is doing cannabis vodka.
Okay.
And I don't know, there's others, especially as it becomes legal state by state too. So I think we'll see more of it. I don't think it's ever going to be a crazy trend where everybody's doing it, but I think it will grow.
Okay.
Right.
Yeah. What do you think, Lish?
I'll say I think that we are going to see some interesting stuff coming out of Canada with the legalization of marijuana and cannabis in Canada currently.
October 17th.
I think it's going to be an opportunity that you're going to see them really being able to have some looseness to experiment, since their legalization is countrywide rather than ours being statewide. And I think it'll be some interesting stuff to come. I think you see, though, more so in the cannabis world that I find interesting are tinctures and pieces done like that, where they're actually doing cocktails, and they're building cocktails with that, rather than just a spirit to pour in a glass. More of an experience that will alter your experience at bars.
Yeah,
right.
We have several bars serving CBD cocktails now, where they'll have 10 or 12 different types of CBD oil, and then use those in the cocktails themselves, which dramatically changes the flavor as well as the experience.
Yeah, I've noticed a lot of people said that the CBD drinks they thought were a fad, but I don't know. Sometimes I think they'd just be more like a craft drink. I think it's a fad that's gonna stay for some people.
Yeah, when you look at the research, millennials are actually much more interested in CBD and sort of marijuana in general more than the generations prior to them.
Right. All right. So on the podcast, we do a thing called sensible or cynical thoughts. So we usually ask our guests to give either a sensible or cynical thought regarding the show. So who wants to go first? So anything positive or negative, basically. So about your podcast, it can be about whiskey or whatever, something that bothers you, something you like. So Alicia, you want to go first?
I'm going to let Lisa go first.
Okay. Lisa, you can go first.
Why, thank you, darling. You're so nice.
Sensible or cynical?
Such a good Southern girl. I'm going to say...
Ladies first.
Wait, hold on. Which one of us is that? I'm super confused now. I will say cynical. You gotta get your ass beyond absolute vodka.
Okay. Do you have any other vodkas I could try?
Oh, come on. Get out of the vodka.
Oh, get off the vodka in general. Okay.
Move to gin. Move to gin. Gin is just infused vodka. That's all it is.
Okay.
Next step for you is gin.
All right.
Your way up.
All right. I'll get off the vodka. Just for you. Just for you, Lisa. I'll get off the vodka.
All right. I'm ready. Put the Jack Daniels down and at least move to some Evan Williams white label.
Oh, come on.
She's...
No way, man.
Whiskey,
Come on. Evan Williams, man. My last buddy...
Okay, so you're cynical.
My last buddy that did Evan Williams, he called me after the 12 steps.
I like Evan.
He called me because he was on the 12 steps.
Evan White Label, same price as Jack Daniels and way better.
Really? Really?
Got some Kentucky love in it. You gotta drink bourbon, not whiskey. Come on, folks.
Evan Williams White Label is actually decent. You're saying it's decent.
Yeah.
Oh, for sure. Yeah, 100%.
No, he has a bottle of Jack Daniels White Rabbit. So that's what he's been drinking.
And it's too smooth for me. I don't like it. But anyway.
Anyways, he likes Jack Daniels. Anyways, anything else you want to promote about the show?
So you can find Alicia on her Instagram at Bourbon Sipper. You can find me, Lisa, at Cocktail_Maven. You can find both of us hanging out at the LushUs Life. And you can find us on our website, thelushuslife.com. And our podcast drops every Monday morning. And you can find us on all your normal podcast channels, iTunes, Google, Stitcher, Spotify, all the good ones. So come hang out with us on Instagram and on Twitter. We love talking to people. We love talking to people about the show, getting show ideas, and just sort of hanging out. So definitely thank you for having us on the show.
It's been a good time. So again, thank you for coming on.
Thanks, you guys.
All right, have a good night.
Thank you too.
So Frank, do you have any sensible or cynical thoughts for the episode?
Yeah, gotta be sensible. I mean, the way alcohol is just going now, with infusing the flavors, infusing the CBD in it, I think that it's just interesting because I think that you're going to get just different, minor, smaller, different niches within the alcohol industry.
Yeah, I'm going to go sensible. I think it was really cool that they would come on. I know, they've kind of had a niche audience in their own right, and it's pretty cool to hear about details of a whiskey and a bourbon and actually talk to someone actually from Kentucky and knows about the trail and what's going on. So it was really cool, and thank you for listening to this episode of Sensibly Cynical. Subscribe, rate, and review us on iTunes. Take care.